Welcome everyone to this month's EVerest Technical Steering Committee for January 2025. We have some highlights for you. There was a community roadmap session beginning of this week, so we have a new 2025 roadmap to present. We had EVerest annual review, got a new stable quarterly release for you. There's also some news from the industry. But before we start, first of all, if you look at the recording, you can just jump to the time marks and don't have to go through all the details with us. And people here in the call, please make sure you behave, because this is a cross-industry collaboration. There are some antitrust policies we have to take into account, but I think you are familiar with that. So what's new in EVerest? On known EV charger makers, yes, we actually learned a couple of new ones, but unfortunately we're not allowed to share them. So if you are using EVerest and you want to be listed here, actually that's also quite a sales opportunity for you, because this people will see this, people asking us very often where do they can buy EVerest-based chargers. So please be listed here and boost your sales. On the development kits and controller side, we're aware of quite a few who are supporting EVerest. There's actually at least 2 further in the preparation we can share next time. And also here, if your charger controller hardware supports EVerest, please let us know. Then we had a nice case study from by Qwello released to the Linux Foundation. They refurbished their chargers with EVerest. And yeah, that's quite a success, a nice read, so please check that out. Then on events, recapping those, yeah, there was a seasonal break, so not so much going on end of December, beginning of January, but there was CES. We also did a small side event from Open Source Loves Climate. Here you see some impression, all the EVs I captured, and you see only 3 of them have, no, actually only 2 of them have been regular car, 1 self-driving car, 2 drones, and everything else heavy-duty machinery. And oh, there's even 1 missing. There was a tractor from John Deere as well. So when you have been on CS, electrification is now really reaching way beyond cars. And that was really interesting to see. There's an airport transport vehicle. Interesting. Then we had yesterday the EV Charging SIG. We had a special interest group, a lot of attendees there. We got the EVerest annual review, so there was no recording for that, but maybe we'll do a blog post about this. So EVerest really made some progress over the last 12 months, including all the statistics we shared. Citrino also is going quite well. They had a new release with the user interface. They're going for certification. They will now also retrofit OCP 1.6 and not only 2.01. So also they are getting more and more mature. And also their community is picking up. Now let's dive into the working groups. What else happened internally? And I think I would hand over to Kai for this.
Yeah. We have started to work on OSPP 2.1, and we are working for quite a while also already on ISO 15178-20. And now, especially with starting with 2.1, we see that there are quite some messages involved in 2.1 that are related to ISO 15178, and all the bidirectional support is somehow connected between OSPP and ISO 15178. So we already at the end of last year, we had some architectural discussions how we can integrate this in EVerest, and we made quite some progress there. So we're working from different sides now on this topic. There's the -20 side, there's the OSPP side, and there's also the central energy manager side. So there has been quite some things going on recently regarding the energy management. We have also added some documentation for the energy manager module, or how energy management works in general in EVerest. You can find this as part of the energy manager module documentation on everest.github.io. I think we noticed that we have some build issues still with the documentation, so it's not yet linked, but you should find it inside the module. And I think also from tomorrow, it'll be part of the generated documentation on EVerest GitHub.io. Then the NREL suggested a pull request for departure-based charging, and we've discussed this a couple of times in the working group meetings. And now there is a pull request opened up. We have added unit tests for the Energy Manager module last week, actually, quite a few, which are JSON-based. So you can basically write unit tests by writing just JSONs, defining your input and your expected output. And last but not least, ChargeByte has prepared, or no, was going to prepare a PR for changing phase limits while charging, I think via the API module. So they are extending the API for the energy management there.
And I think maybe worth mentioning, I talked last week a lot to US partners, and we're currently looking for someone interested in going after IEEE 2030.5 and joining the EVerest Energy Management Working Group. This feels something hard to accomplish for the European partners in this collaboration. So if anyone is interested, please speak up after the recording or reach out to us.
Yeah, there are actually two more points that are not listed on the slide, which is the ongoing EVerest integration, where we expect to have some results maybe next month or the month after. Like it's rather an integration than an implementation. So we're integrating another EVerest open source stack. And the same we do for Open AER. It's an external contribution. So I heard that there will be a pull request today, but I think it's not yet submitted for the integration of Open ADR 3.0, also based on an open source Open ADR stack.
Yeah, let's have that on the slide next time when it's there. Cool, thanks.
Right, I can continue here also for the cloud communication. There is US Plugfest upcoming next week. Robert and I will be there on site in the US testing OSPP 2.1 for the first time with at least, I think, 3 CSMSs that are there for 2.1. We have already implemented the first 2.1 features. They are currently still on the feature branch, but also here we had quite some architectural discussions and discussed how we can get started with this. And we're now at the point where we can actually start with the integration of or implementation of new use cases that are part of OSPP 2.1. And I think the official 2.1 version has just been published probably a couple of hours ago by the OCA. Now there is actually a final version of that available that we can use and rely on. The first functional block we will focus on will be functional block Q, bidirectional power transfer, but also the smart charging functional block is, or like has changed, or additional requirements have been added there. And since like smart charging and bidirectional power transfer are also somehow related, we will also look into that one. And still, as a like kind of a preparation to actually get started with 2.1, we are moving functional code blocks into dedicated classes in order to unit test them better and then to build up on that for the 2.1 development. And I think like we have like 60 or 70% of the functional blocks already moved, so there are just a few left until we're done with that. Okay. I think I can also continue with that one, Marco. One slide further.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yes, now there's the next slide. So for the car communication working group, we have also added a unit test for the EVSE V2G module for DIN-spec and ISO 50118-2. And the second point that is listed here in EVerest core is one of the preparations that we are doing for integrating OSPP 2.1 and ISO 50118-20. So there is this connection that that we need between these modules. So we decided to create a new EVerest interface for this that can be used by our OSPP modules in order to get this information from ISO 15118 and optionally also set some commands or get data that is only required in order for our OSPP stack to respond properly to messages from the CSMS or initiate messages on its own. In the ISO 15118, we are working on the -20 pause resume feature and also on refactoring the OpenSSL TLS server to have proper TLS 1.3 support. And there has been one fix regarding EVSE that has been merged recently.
All right, I can take this one. So, in general update, we had these two working groups in the past called Framework and Tools and the CI/CD testing group, and we've now decided, like last year sometime, that we want to merge them, and this has happened in January. It's now called Framework Infrastructure Tools, shortened to FIT. And yeah, there's in general lots of things in progress. Some issues with the CI that need addressing or being worked on. Some features in EVerest framework that are actively being worked on. This will probably also be on the release slides later on. But yeah, basically lots of smaller improvements here or there, basically preparing the code base for better testability, for more performance, and yeah, general things like that. So that's that.
Okay, next slide.
Next slide.
Who want to go after this?
I can do this one. Yeah, what we see a lot is more and more universities joining. The almost every month there's a new university that joins a call and seems to be either having somebody working on a master thesis or on a project, which is really amazing to see. Really nice to see the academic world join. What we do see is we don't see a lot of traffic on the APAC friendly time slot. So the early morning slots for us in Europe. So we try to get a bit more traction. Our plan is to use LinkedIn and mailing list reminders to let people know, like, hey guys, don't forget we do have this call for you guys. If we don't see an increase in traffic, we might start reducing the frequency of the call to like maybe once a month. There's not that much interest in the call, then there's also not a reason for us to open the call every time and prepare it. So yeah, if you are interested, please let us know. If you're then not able to attend, not a problem, but then at least we know that this is a useful call still for people.
Okay, thanks. So we have a new working group on megawatt charging system that was before part of the car communication. Now we spawned this off, and also there, I think the first meetings happened. Who want to take this?
Yeah, I can do it. Oh yeah,
Peter.
go ahead, Rob.
Everyone.
So yeah, we had kickoff last week. We had a couple of people joining, especially from the US as well. What we did already notice is that the time slot might not be the easiest for them. So we are also looking into moving it at half an hour because it's a bit early for the people on the west coast of the US. We went basically over every company that joined, like, what's your plans for MCS? When would you want to work on this for EVerest, so we could have that on a roadmap? Seems to be there's a lot of interest, but nobody's really like, oh, we need this next month. Also, the spec isn't final yet. We went over a little bit on what would this mean for EVerest. So if you really look at EVerest, is typically a high-level communication for a charging station. The changes for MCS aren't that big. to get everything working if you have -20. So it should be fairly simple to add MCS support to EVerest. The low-level stuff, which if you take, for example, the Belay box from Bionics, the low-level controller is different. So you need hardware changes, you need different firmware to run the low-level communication, the PWM signal stuff and CPPP. That is definitely changed. That might even take more effort than getting the high-level communication working. But as that part is currently not part of EVerest, it still needs work to be done for people that will use EVerest. But for EVerest itself, it might just be not that much work. It will need a different EVSE manager because there's no Slack. And that is also part of the restructuring that needs to happen first, is make it possible to have a different EVSE manager, because the one that we have now is really hardly tied with CCS, including Slack and everything it needs to run.
Thanks a lot. So from the vulnerability management team, there's nothing to report. So good, no news are really good news here. But if you have anything what is critical, please reach out to this team. They will handle that responsible and take care. Yeah, next, monthly release notes. We are now in a stable release again. We changed the rhythm a bit, as mentioned in the December meeting. You see, it took us 1 month more now. So but it was just no point in releasing mid-December, right before Christmas. The stabilization window was just a bit crazy with vacation upcoming. So now we decided to shift the entire rhythm by a month, and yeah, just going at the beginning of the quarter, not at the end of the quarter. So, and what does it mean actually? Kai, I guess you want to take through this?
Yeah, sure. So there's basically 2 slides, one with a few highlights that I picked out. So basically these 2 highlights just focus on EVerest Framework and EVP. In EVerest Framework, we had a few, I would say, noticeable performance improvements, at least especially compared to the last stable release in September during startup, especially on platforms that are maybe not as CPU strong as others. And in libOCVP, this includes stuff that is not yet in main, but or is in main in libOCVP, but not yet in EVerest Core. But basically things like more in-depth documentation for smart charging, configurable TPM support for certain certificate types, making the central system URL changeable via change configuration if you so desire, supporting only 1.6 only compilation, so you don't have to compile 2.01 and 1.6. I think it was already possible in the past to only compile 2.01, but this is now also possible just for 1.6. Some fixes in logging that certain write-only variables aren't locked anymore or can't be locked anymore. Preparations to make unit testing a little bit more easy. Fixes in a WebSocket handling, and as Pete earlier mentioned, we've moved quite a few functional blocks into their own classes. This includes for 2.01 reservations, authorization, security, and display message at the moment. Yeah, with more to come. And next slide, please. And here's just a selection of the PRs that merged in the upcoming EVerest Core January release. There are more that will still be added, but this is the state of today, basically. Things like reservation for when changes when all connectors are reserved, tests for the OCPP cost and price display messages, and some other changes. I won't go into all of them in detail, but basically I'm just picking out a few at random. So we have now support for a driver for the NXP PN7160 NFC chip as a token provider. Some refactorings going on, and the possibility to enable code coverage in an EVerest Core. And yeah, the EVSE manager can now fail charging if you get error messages from a power meter. And yeah, additional unit tests and documentation as well. And I think we're probably targeting end of this week with the first release candidate, and then do what's necessary to get a stable release out of that.
Thanks. So what's next to the EVerest project? As mentioned before, we have done a roadmap session within Pionix, but I think also ChargeByte had one, and we had also talked to a lot of partners, and we then also did a big public roadmap session. And this is the outcome, goes over several slides. Pete, you want to take this one on OCPP and the other ones? Walk a bit through.
Yes, sure. So for Q1 of 2025, we will focus on 2.1 core, which is basically enabling libOSPP and our OSPP modules to handle 2.1 connections and basically inherit from what we have or what we have from OSPP 2.0.1. And we are, as I mentioned already, quite far with this. And next is to work on the implementation of the new features, and the first one is the functional block Q, so the bidirectional charging that is connected with ISO 15118-20 features and updates. And as I mentioned earlier, we are working from several sites currently to get this going. And then in Q2 we'll focus on the V2X set points, resuming transactions, and EMS support. So being able to also include in 2.1 and also bidirectional charging signals from external systems. And then in the second half of 2025, we will look into frequency control, priority charging, and DER control, as well as the minimum required error codes, and continue in 2026 with what's left in OSPP 2.1. So we have currently deprioritized a little bit the new authorization features that are there for ad hoc payments, cost calculations, prepaid cards, and event streams as well.
Maybe adding a bit of context here. So this roadmap can always change. This is just, let's say, what the current active contributors discussed. If anyone has wishes to accelerate things, you're super invited to help on things and pulling things in. And also I have to say, this feels a bit, let's say, maybe slow if you just say like, oh, just implementing some data packages, but this really comes with full features included over the entire charging station, not just a thin data translation layer. So when we say a certain feature is in the OCP, it's basically within the entire charging station stack and not just in a receiving logic. Yeah, let's continue on ISO 15118-20.
Yes, so currently we're working on the pause resume feature, and then we'll look into the V2X set point and getting like ISO 15118-20 in general more mature. We basically have already started with this data sharing between OSPP and -20, and that will probably continue when we develop new features in OSPP and ISO 15118. So these timelines should somehow from OSPP and ISO 15118 overlap if you look at the features that we are targeting. So we plan to actually develop this hand in hand. So if a feature is available in OSPP 2.1 that is related to ISO 15118, we would like to keep this somehow in sync to also be able to test the whole chain. For Q2, we then target the EVSE manager refactoring that needs a little bit of changes in order to allow this bidirectional charging according to -20. Also with the changes that we expect to have in the energy management. And then we also plan to look at GBT. And then in the second half of 2025, we plan to look into some -2 features that are not yet implemented because they are not really used by any cars that are currently on the market, like certificate update, even certificate install is not used a lot, but that is supported. Only the certificate update is not yet implemented in our -2 module, as well as the smart charging feature of ISO 50118-2. And also here, if we see that more vehicle supports it that are on the market, we might also like change priorities here a little bit. But currently, we do want to implement what's actually required in the real world. So these features have been scheduled for the second half of 2025. We then also plan to look into the low-level communication of MCS and into the Slack refactor that is specified in the 15.11.8-10. And also continue with the MCS high-level communication. And for 2026, we have planned the DER-20 features and Park&Charge. And we'll also look that we integrate the EV side in the lib ISO 15.11.8, which we can then use inside our simulations. That's it.
And also here again, if community wants to prioritize things differently, we are super welcome to join our efforts. And this is anyway for constant change and updates. And also here, we will implement not only, let's say, a data receiving and sending package method, we'll implement those features really through the entire charging station stack. But there's more. Pete, you want to go again?
Yeah, so I mentioned already that we work on the EBus integration and the OpenADR integration already. It's mentioned here for Q2. We also have to see what this contribution contains and how many features of OpenADR are covered by the library implementation and then also by the integration. But yeah, we already started with that and expect the external contributions for this. And then, yeah, especially in Q1, we will work to make bidirectional charging work together with 2.1 and ISO 15.11.8-20. So integrate the set point feature, so you can say like that's required in these protocols, as well as frequency control. And ChargeByte plans to add another API, may it be a module or some different design to allow external energy management systems to control EVerest. That's already possible via the API module. But ChargeByte identified some points to improve this and is planning to suggest a design for a new API that can then be used by external EMS systems. Well, yeah, in Q2, OpenADR is mentioned again here. As I said, we will see how much of that is already covered by the contribution that we will get soon. And EBus is a very large protocol as well. So the plan for Q1 is to actually cover some basic use cases. And in Q2, we will look to implement even more that go further into e-mobility use cases and those for bidirectional charging. And then we plan to look into Matter in the second half of 2025. And what's not yet planned, but also on the roadmap is some improvements in our energy management systems. We have like load management functionality already implemented, but identified rooms for improvement for dynamic load balancing. So like checking the actual consumption of the charging station or an EVSE, and then limit according to the consumption to be able to distribute available power more effectively to different chargers. And we also see some improvements for the solar integration in general, and also for dynamic pricing integrations. And Marco already mentioned the IEEE 2030.5, and that some organizations are currently looking into this.
There's a typo here. It should be US organizations. So talk to a couple of different institutions here. Let's see who raises finally its hand. Yeah, and then there's even more. So there's some roadmap topics beside that, especially there's currently some hardware drivers on the roadmap announced. So like here we're talking about the open source side. There's, at least for Pionix, you can say also some closed source hardware drivers available. And I also know that other companies are doing this, but there's couple of those will now also reach the open source part of this. And then there's some other ideas, again, not planned. We had them on the roadmap forever, so just for completeness, we're listing them here again. So one is that you can couple different EVerest systems with each other. So let's say 2 different EVerest chargers, for example, can share load balancing functionality. And it's kind of all planned out, but no one had time to actually implement and test that. The second side is if you're starting energy management, you also maybe want to manage non-EVerest chargers on your site, which means you have to have an EVerest which speaks server-side OCPP and then connects to the other chargers and tells them the limits. Again, if anyone raises a hand, let us know, then we're happy to pull you in here. Upcoming events. There's a lot going on in this year in the EV charging world. Leave this for a moment on the screen, not going through the list one by one. I think that would be too long, but you can see there's quite a bit of happening in May. I think half the screen is in May. And so I think in February, we also have a couple of events globally. If anything is missing from your perspective, please write us. We're happy to list any company doing something with the EVerest ecosystem or every organization, university, whatsoever here on that site. Maybe we have to split this on 2 screens, worst case. I think the highlights this year are, from my opinion, for sure, the Plugfest, the Testivals, not going into the details here. Then there will be the ICNC in Berlin. There will be the Power to Drive in Munich, and there will be the Nordic EV Summit in Oslo and the EVS 38 in Göteborg. On the EVS 38, there will be a hackathon, and Pionix will send one mentor for helping the teams in case they're interested in hacking in EVerest. I think the registration page site for this hackathon went online today. If you know where to look on, I think in the next couple of days they will make the final page, also the landing page for the hackathon online. Please look out for it. Maybe we'll also put the registration link here into the send around emails. It will also be probably quite fun. We're expecting, I think, 100 teams on hacking on different things around e-mobility there. And my personal highlight, I have to say that as Pionix representative, there's the event. It's also non-profit. We just ask for a little bit entrance fee for paying, let's say, for the beverages and for the food, but it's definitely non-profit. Also, speakers are not paying here. It's just based on, can you present good tech content? Then please sign up as a speaker if you're interested in cool tech content around e-mobility, from charging to firmware to cloud solution to roaming. Yeah, please join us. Registration deadlines for sessions workshop is mid-February, and I think you can already sign up for a waiting list for the participants. I think we will open the ticket sales also soon. And we had done something similar last year in Germany with about 200 people. Now we have 450 seats in one of the most beautiful cities in Germany, Heidelberg, quite close to the Frankfurt airport. Also scenic for a visit. The city with a really old castle, so highly suggested to come by. That's it for today. Next EVerest TSC will be 27th of February, so I think this time it's 5 weeks. At 5 p.m. CET. And if you want to join any of the working groups, you can see here the link of where to find them. And if you want to sign up for anything else, please go on the EVerest mailing list. We'll also send the meeting minutes from the working groups, from the EVerest TSC, and many other things around there. So yeah, looking forward to see you there. And by this, I would stop the recording, or technically cut it out, and let's go to the discussion.